to Fox Philly Headline Makers. I'm your host for the day, Tyler Bachman, and joined back by one of my favorite guests that I love to have on, Marlon Hartman with the Kendall County Solid Waste Coordinator there with Kendall County. And Marlon, thanks for coming on with us today. Again, it's always great to chat with you because you're a man who knows a lot about a lot of things around the county here. So,
you know, when you've been dealing with Kendall County's trash for over 25 years, you get a little bit to know about it, and it's not really great knowledge, I guess, but 25 or almost 30 years of garbage knowledge of Kendall County.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and for those who maybe haven't tuned in with us when you've been on before, tell our guests a little bit about what you do on a daily basis for our county. Obviously, you deal with a lot of trash, and you kind of oversee a lot of that.
And basically what I do is I try to make sure that Kendall County is taking care of their waste environmentally and efficiently, and following good practices such as recycling, you know, trying to make sure we recycle good. If we don't recycle good, you know, why not? You know, one of the things we've done recently is we recognize some restaurants and companies within Kendall County who have done a great job of recycling within their establishments, you know, making sure all their beverage containers get recycled. We've got a few doing food composting, you know, some of your bigger stores like Jewel, they're doing food composting. So we've recognized some of those commercial establishments, but we also promote, you know, residents and how to do it. And we were talking before the show just yesterday, I took a bunch of second graders out to the compost facility across from Raging Waters there, and the transfer station here in Plano to see all the garbage. And we pulled the school bus right in there next to all this garbage trucks dumping, and those second graders, I'll tell you, they were enjoying themselves. But they get an idea of how much garbage is actually created, how much is in one, you know, most people just look at their one garbage can.
Sure.
And look at all of it that comes out. When you see 30 garbage trucks dump out their garbage, that's a lot of garbage. And then you're saying, where's all that garbage go? Who's making all that garbage?
Right.
And the kids were asking me, why were there clothes in there? Why were these this in there? I said, when people don't want anything, they want it to go away.
Yep.
In our society, it's easy. You put it in the garbage can, whatever it is, it goes away.
Yeah. How much dealing do you do with things that aren't supposed to be put in the garbage that you have to separate out and figure out what to do with?
Well, that's one of the bigger challenges that we face now is, believe it or not, you can contaminate garbage. It's hard to believe you can contaminate garbage, such as if you put a paint can of an oil-based paint in there, that's not good.
Right.
Because in these landfills where our garbage goes, they have to collect the liquids out of the bottom, and any chemicals you throw in there, and they call that household hazardous waste. You know, fluorescent bulbs, electronics. We'll talk more about electronics as we go through this show. If you got an old TV, everybody knows, what am I going to do with it now?
Right.
Well, we have some options now in Kendall County, so we want to talk about that. But, you know, as I look at how long I've been in this business, you know, when I first started in the business many years ago, recycling was the big thing, right?
Yep.
You know, as long as we understand basic recycling, but then we got into a problem that we told people, if you don't know if it's recyclable, throw it in there and they'll figure it out. Well, that's become a huge problem. Now everybody throws everything in the recycle bin, and now there's so much garbage in the recycling, it's causing a problem. Why does it cause a problem? Because now machines separate the recyclables. It's no longer people watching it go down a conveyor belt, although that is a small portion of the process, but 98% of it now is done by laser, air fans, magnets, screens, laser optics. So when you start putting stuff in there that doesn't belong, like styrofoam, plastic bags, a frying pan, a broken glass that you drink out of, a glass bottle or a jar is very recyclable. But when you talk about a glass or Corningware, they're made out of a different type, or a broken window. Those are all considered contamination in the glass process. So one of the things I highly recommend to all residents is go to your waste hauler's website and see what is recyclable. And don't put in the things that aren't recyclable. We're trying to get more items recycled. And right now in the United States, we're doing about 35%. Kendall County's right in that 30%. So we're doing a pretty good job here.
Very good, very good. And about, I guess, how many, you've talked about a lot of the process seems to be done now, kind of machine-based. It's a lot of technological based. How many, I guess, people do you have that kind of oversee the garbage transfer that we have go on throughout our county?
Well, really, it's only me, but most of the haulers, you know, like Groot, Waste Management, Veolia, you know, they run a very good business. These are big companies who want to do it right. There's been a lot of problems in the past with garbage, and it was, at one time, heavily controlled by maybe the mafia or something, right? if you watch those shows. But
That's a headline right there.
Yeah,
Garbage controlled by the mafia.
you only had to go back 30 years in New York and New Jersey, and believe me, there it was, or Chicago maybe too.
Yeah.
But now these companies all want to do it right. There's been enough issues with improper handling, and obviously improper handling leads to contamination of our water, right? We want to have clean water, we want to have clean air. As you look, one of the other things about being here for a long time, the fox, the environmental hero, the fox that originated right here in good old Kendall County. There was so much pollution going into the Fox River that nothing was living.
Yeah.
That was basically dead.
Sure.
And that was before we had an EPA. And, if we've learned anything over time, if you don't oversee certain things, people will abuse them.
Yep.
I hate to say that, but, money's a driving force. And keeping our waters clean, our air clean, litters off the road. This time of year, that drives me crazy. I drive down the road.
Yeah.
I was just
Absolutely.
talking to my neighbor yesterday, and what a new neighbor, great guy. He's already walked the ditches a couple times. I live out in the country.
Yep.
But he cares about it, he cares. So.
And it's one of those things where you don't think about it. You have your lunch or whatnot. You have your cup, and then you take it and you throw it out the window. Well, somebody has to go and clean that up. It doesn't just go away.
Our society, we don't like to have problems.
Yep.
So if I got something I don't want, and I'm in my car with it, I got a problem. I don't want.
Get rid of it. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't have a problem anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody else does, but people have to do it. I mean, the amount of money we have to pay our state highway department to walk up and down our expressways and interstates to pick up trash. You know how much money we spend on
sure a
picking
ton.
up other people's trash? It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh. All people have to do is get a litter bag, or in the old days you had a little litter bag that hung on your cigarette lighter.
That's right.
We don't have cigarette lighters in many of them now, right?
Exactly.
Get a USB charge port. But you would have that in there, and you'd put your little litter in there, and then you'd empty it every other day or so. But now it's.
Yep.
And sometimes I know people inadvertently litter. They have paper on their seat. They roll down the window.
Sure. It flies out. Yep.
That's happened to me, and I'm going, oh.
Right.
But. But that's inadvertent litter. Just we need people to quit throwing things out the windows. Make sure they get in the proper containers.
Well, and let's talk about some of the factors, I guess, that go into that with the contamination of it. So say that you have recycling that gets thrown into your system or whatnot that it's not supposed to be. You were talking about before. You have plenty of things that go in that are not supposed to be there. What are some of the side effects, I suppose, into our environment if I don't know, say things that are not supposed to be in your recycling, something passes through, or it gets through and down to your groundwater, something of that sort.
Let's talk about pharmaceuticals.
Okay, sure.
One of the programs we now have in Kendall County through the Sheriff's Office, and Sheriff Baird has done a great job with this program. He now has a pharmaceutical take-back because we might have somebody aged in our family pass away, and geez, we got a whole box full of drugs they've been taking, right? Or even in our house where we're moving cabinets now, oh my gosh, look at all the pharmaceuticals we collected. My wife put them all together that were past their expiration date. But you can take those to the Sheriff's Office, and that's critical for two reasons. One, we have a lot of drug abuse going on from pharmaceuticals now. Right. And number two, when these drugs a lot of people are told flush them down the toilet, or if they do go into a landfill. If they get into our waters, or let's say they flush them down the toilet and they go to the wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater treatment plants are designed to handle organic materials, not chemicals. Pharmaceuticals are chemicals. They pass right through the wastewater treatment plant. All wastewater treatment plants dump their clean water into waterways, such as the Fox River, different lakes, Lake Michigan. That's where they get dumped, right? And it's supposed to be clean water. But if it's got all these pharmaceuticals, what they found is in some waterways that some of the fish, toads, and other smaller life in there are now mostly female because so many of the what am I going to say here? Pregnancy protecting drugs and hormones and things get into the waterways, and now they're
affect their system.
They're impacting those. So we're seeing that if that kind of contamination gets into our waterways, it causes a big problem. No different with paints and solvents that might be into a landfill. Landfill liquids go to a wastewater treatment plant. and they can get through there too.
Yeah.
So wastewater treatment plants, where we want our dirty waters to go, they're only designed for organics. So when we start putting those other contaminants in there, they can directly impact our waterways, our surface waterways.
Sure. And so the drop box, for example, that's one option that people have to get rid of some of those things.
Right. Take it right to the sheriff's office. They do not take needles, sharps, as we call them, but any kind of, cough medicine, ibuprofen, prescriptions, medications, put them in there. It's handled by the sheriff's office. They take them directly to Indianapolis, Indiana, and they throw them in an incinerator.
Yeah.
They watch them get incinerated, so there's no touching of any of this stuff by anybody. It goes into like a mailbox. You put it in, goes away.
Sure.
They take it, they drive it to Indianapolis, and fortunately, I think it's the pharmaceutical companies, or one of them is paying for the sheriff's day to do that, because it takes them all day to drive to Indianapolis and back and burn it. And we've got a grant for that, but like I said, the sheriff's done a good job of trying to help control that issue.
Sure. Would needles go to a facility like that as well? What is done with needles that people have? Say you're trying to get rid of those. Where
Diabetics, they have needle problems, or the things that with that. Right now, we don't really have a good way to get rid of those. We're hoping pharmacies will take them back, but usually they don't. So if you do have any needles, what you should be doing with those is put them in like a Downy container, a heavy plastic container, not like a plastic, because a needle could easily poke through that. Yep. And then you write "do not recycle" on it. And because what's happening is that people are putting those needles, and usually they don't throw one in there. They wait till they get like at half full, and then they throw it in their trash.
Yeah.
Don't throw it in the recycle bin, right? They throw it in the trash, but at some places they'll see the recyclables. Well, they'll take them out of the trash and throw them in with the recyclables. Well, now that goes into a machine. Well, the machine sees it, it puts in with the plastic jugs, compresses it, but those needles are still in there.
Yeah.
So that's why it's important to put "do not recycle" on it. That is the universal sign for people in a recycling facility or garbage. If you see "do not recycle" on it, there's a reason, right? There's a reason.
Yep.
Because once they get in the landfill, really they're no risk.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Broken glasses in landfills, jagged metals. So a few needles, probably not as bad.
Right. I wanted to touch back on the kind of the prescription pills and whatnot you've talked about. I guess in your time here, from what you've seen, has there been a large increase in those sorts of things, funneling down into the wrong places?
Oh, without doubt. I mean, that's been a problem.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I think maybe 20 years ago, obviously, prescription pills aren't anything necessarily new, but I do think about it as well. You talk about opening up that old cabinet from 10, 15 years ago. You've got drugs in there that you haven't used.
Well, we've learned that there are more mind-altering medications out there, painkillers, that in a certain amount they take care of your pain. Too much of an amount, they can cause different effects, which some people may find enjoyable, or they just don't know it isn't enjoyable. I'm not sure, but so that the understanding that those prescription medications can be understood as a party drug, that misconception has caused it to go that route.
Yeah.
And it's funny how things happen that way.
Sure. And we've had a lot of conversations with the health department here regarding, we talked about the opioid crisis. We've talked about some things like this as well, kind of in that vein with the drop-off box as well in Kendall County. So it's for multiple facets. It's a helpful thing.
And the coroner has always taken care of that stuff. So if you had somebody who passed away, the coroner would many times take it. So, in Kendall County, we have the sheriff's office here that you can take it in there and drop it off anonymously. There's no paperwork. You just open it up, put it in there, you walk out. In Grundy County to our south, the Manuka Police Station also takes it, and also the Grundy County Coroner in Morris takes it. So you've got a few options in here. Obviously the Yorkville Sheriff's Office here is a great opportunity, but also we've got some in the south too through Grundy County.
Yeah, we have a lot of other things I want to make sure we get to today. We're going to do this. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back here on Fox Valley Headline Makers.
The color in my garden keeps the pink in my cheeks. I was very independent and thought I could take care of myself. I fell and I had to have Meals on Wheels. They're my savior. My name is Lola Silvestri. America, let's do lunch.
Drop off a hot meal and say hello. Volunteer by donating your lunch break at America Let's Do Lunch.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Boom. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Boom. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Boom.
They call me Prince like I'm royalty or something. But the places I've lived ain't no palaces. So I don't need grilled salmon or a new scratching post. Just give me a cardboard box and a can of tuna and we're good. You can even change my name. I'm cool being the kitty formerly known as Prince.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Headline Makers. Tyler Bachman back with you, and joined here again by my guest today, Marlon Hartman. Marlon, we talk a lot about trash when we get together. But
Get to talk trash in a good way,
yes,
right?
absolutely. But we had kind of left off. We were going to get into a bit of e-waste and talking about that facet of things. Certainly, there's special types of trash. You don't put your computers in the trash can. You're not supposed to. I'm sure you still see things like that.
Yeah,
on
it's
occasion.
against the law.
Yep.
There's a ban against electronics now in landfills that went in 2012. We're modifying the law a little bit more as we go in the future. But we've made a lot of headway with that. And, earlier you asked, what are the problems if things get in there when they shouldn't?
Yeah.
When we talk about electronics going into the landfills, most of your old TV screens are made out of a lot of lead. Mm-hmm. And the lead, once that TV glass is broken, when rain comes down through it, the water absorbs the lead.
Yeah.
So once again, it goes through and gets out into our waterways. Mm-hmm. So we realized that electronics got to come out of there because we're poisoning our own water.
Yeah.
And when I say our water, it's not leaking through the landfill, but we got to take those waters out and treat them and then put them back in our environment. And wastewater treatment plants do not treat for heavy metals.
Right, organic materials.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So lead, not only is there lead in computers, but silver, cadmium, there's a whole cacophony of heavy metals that are bad for us to have in our waters. So that's one of the main reasons electronics is brought out. But also we realize that those heavy metals, where do we get them from? Dig them out of the ground, right? I mentioned I was with the second grade. I did a presentation for them in their classes earlier in the year. Mm-hmm. And it's funny when you ask them, where does plastic come from? Where does, lead or, other metals come from? Most of them know that metals, we have to dig out of the ground. And, we talk about our limited natural resources. So electronics has been a big target for us because of the environmental hazards it poses, as well as the natural resources we're wasting. So now let's talk about what to do with them in Kendall County.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate here. The municipalities and villages of Kendall County have worked very hard to address this issue. So if you live in Yorkville, you live in Plano, you live in Oswego, you live in Montgomery, all you have to do is call your hauler or go to their website, and it gives you a phone number to call, and they'll come to your house and pick it up. Mm-hmm. They will come to your house, pick up your TV, your Xbox, and once again, they've got a list of what is acceptable.
Sure.
But you go to your municipality website, and that'll have a link to your hauler. It'll tell you what exactly they pick up. They pick it up for free.
Mm-hmm. It's part of the contract that they.
You're already paying for it.
Right.
Every household, I think, in those municipalities, it's about $1 to $1.15, give or take, per household. You're already paying for that service.
Yeah.
So if you got any old VCRs or whatever on their list, call them up. They tell you what day to put it out there. They come pick it up. They make sure that if you're putting out a computer, they destroy the data. They take it to a reputable computer recycling organization. And there's quite a few out there now. That market got pretty big.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of bad people in that business. A lot of people were burying computers. They would charge you $10 or $25 to take your computer. They would dig a hole out in their back lot, and one guy buried thousands of them.
Really?
Thousands of them.
Okay.
Just buried them
Did not know that.
on his lot out back. There have been numerous warehouses. We had a guy that was working for one of the government agencies, not in Kendall County, but in the Chicagoland area. He was taking all their electronics, he put it all in a warehouse, then took off.
Oh, wow.
He filled huge warehouses full of TVs that he charged people for, and then disappeared.
Wow. Did not know that.
Oh, that's happened all over the United States. A lot of them didn't start out to do it as a criminal act. They figured, I'll get this, but then there was no place for them to go.
Sure.
And then once you got 2 warehouses full of TVs, see ya. So that electronics really got out of hand, but now it's been weeded out that most of them that are still surviving in the market are reputable. There's a lot more oversight on them, you know, and that's how I got involved. I would go to these places. I said, you're taking Kendall County computers. Let me see how you wipe them. Let me verify it. Let me go through these computers. So I would always do a personal verification of that. So the main thing is, if you live in any of the municipalities or villages, go to your community's website. It will be on there. It's free. You're already paying for it. Those of us who live outside municipalities like myself, Best Buy will still take some, but you need to verify on their website what they will or won't take.
Okay.
They have limited numbers. Goodwill will take everything but TVs.
Okay.
So if you have Xboxes, they have, believe it or not, Goodwill has their own computer or electronics recycling facility in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They take in so many electronics around here that they built their own computer recycling facility. So they've done a real good job of that.
One thing I think of is, do you see problems with cell phones, I guess, in particular? Is that kind of one that gets thrown around? I know a lot of these places, you know, when you say you don't want your cell phone anymore, a lot of places, you know, your provider will do trades and whatnot. But say you've got an old phone that you haven't used in 6 years that you found in, you know, inside your nightstand or something like that. What do you do with that?
Oh, same thing. That's one of what we say as a EED, which is an extra electronic device, but they will take that.
Okay.
So cell phones, the haulers will take them, Best Buy will take them, Goodwill will take them.
Yep.
Those are a little bit easier because there's only good stuff in those. You know,
Yeah.
like with your TVs, your old TVs, you've got that leaded glass.
Sure.
In the newer flat screen, there are tubes of mercury in those. So once again, you don't want to be breaking those up and putting them all over your house.
Right.
Just like the TV tubes made of glass.
Are any of these parts, what happens, I guess, with the parts in particular? Are things able to be recycled in a sense, to be reused?
I tell you, the electronics recycling business has done a great job. I've watched it from the very beginning. They now can grind up those TV tubes and separate the leaded glass from the non-leaded glass. But the problem is it's hard to smelt it back now and to get the lead out of the leaded glass. That's a problem. And what some companies do when they're making old toilets out of the old leaded glass.
Okay, I did not know that.
But they figure it's safe, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's lead in windows or silica in glass.
Yep.
But as long as it's a piece of glass, as long as you don't grind it up and make it in small and throw it in the air, it's not bad for you.
Sure.
So the same with those. But all that stuff, even the computer recycling agencies, electronics, they do a great job of the plastics.
Yeah.
All the coatings on them, those all used to be thrown away. Now that plastic is recycled.
Yep.
Those electronics recycling companies are doing a great job. They separate all the wire. They do a great job. Some of them have a very, very low, landfill rate, like less than 1% of what they get in.
And Marlon, you talked before, you're a resident who necessarily doesn't live within a municipality, doesn't live within a city, and for residents like that, for some of these special items, I know you guys had an event last year, a special e-waste recycling event.
Right.
And how was the turnout for that? How'd that go?
We had a great turnout. One of the things we did this time was we had we had an electronic registration on the computer. So everybody had a time when to show up, 8:01, 8:05, 8:07, whatever it was. So we did right at 400 people over the 4 hours. Everybody registered, and everybody showed up exactly on time.
Yeah.
The biggest problem you had with collection events is everybody shows up in the morning. So you got nothing but a long line of cars, and everybody
Waiting to
sits
get
in
in,
cars for an hour and a half.
Yep.
By doing this, but we had over, I think, 58,000 pounds of electronics brought in, a lot of TVs.
Yep.
A lot of TVs, but 58,000 pounds. We had right around 400 residents show up.
Okay,
It
yeah,
went
very
smooth as silk. No long lines. I think the longest anybody had to wait in line was like a minute.
Sure.
So it ran really well using that electronic system. We had a great turnout. So many people registered. They were right on time. So what a great event. It turned out really good. And
Very good.
it gave a lot of those people, and the thing is, a lot of them, we kept track how many were from municipalities, but a lot of them just didn't know that they're already paying for that service.
Right, right.
You know, they're already paying for that service.
You know, and it's interesting you talk about that with a lot of these haulers that have that built in now to their systems, and even events, special events that like the county holds for residents that aren't able to necessarily have the same services provided. Over time, I'm sure these things have been put in place because the problems obviously persisted years ago.
And what's kind of occurred there is that the haulers wanted to get a contract, so they throw in those things for you because they knew
sure.
you need them. But anyway.
Yeah, I just was going to ask. I mean, have we the detriment to our environment side of it? Have we certainly seen improvements in, and moving forward even after this? Do you think that we'll continue to see improvements so those things don't go in the wrong spots?
You know, I think, we've gone a long way. You know, we were talking about Earth Day, April 22nd, started in 1970 in Wisconsin. But it was, people like the Fox who were doing things in the 60s that kind of started bringing the environment to everybody's attention. Obviously, fish dying in our waterways, was bringing attention to a lot of people. Not being able to eat certain fish out of waterways, so there was a big movement towards protecting that. But there's no doubt the regulations that we've been put in place, the people's involvement with recycling and knowing that we're doing a lot of good things.
Yeah.
The next big challenge, is global warming. Is it real? Is it not real? Believe me, it's real. We have impacted the atmosphere with all the air contaminants we're throwing in there. I can remember years ago, I flew into California into smog. I couldn't believe it here. I'm flying in, you could see that yellow stuff.
Right.
You fly through California now, you don't see that smog.
Yeah.
We've made improvements.
And that's because regulation has been put in place.
And people's understanding of the problem.
Yeah.
So it's not just regulations, it's people understanding why those regulations need to be in place.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned Earth Day. Did you guys do anything fun for Earth Day? What was your goal that day for yourself?
Well, luckily it's my daughter's birthday.
Okay.
My oldest daughter was born on Earth Day. What are the likelihood of that, right? So we had a big birthday party, environmentally friendly. But a lot of counties and communities do try to do Earth Day events.
Yeah.
And to me, every day is Earth Day.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So I can kind of go that route. But no, didn't do anything special, but I know it's Earth Day.
Very good. Last question I had for you today. Do you have any goals for within your department coming up the next year or two, things that you would like to see improve around the county?
Well, one of the things we're working with, I talked about e-waste legislation. We're trying to make this e-waste collection even more accessible.
Yeah.
The other thing that's going on for us in the short term is we're going to be doing our solid waste plan. Every 5 years, we get people of the community together, one from each municipality, and we talk about what challenges are we facing in the waste stream. Like food composting is now on our sites. We're talking more about electronics. So that's kind of our bigger project, is get this group together. We spend about a year educating the public on what's going on with this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we try to make recommendations to implement over the next 5 years to make Kendall County even more environmentally friendly.
Yeah. Are you going to be having any events or anything like that coming up regarding those in the next year, you think, probably for county board meetings or wherever you go and speak?
We're not going to be doing any electronics events or anything like that because this new legislation is out there. But so we're kind of holding back on that right now, and we'll see what these members of the solid waste plan pick for our future.
Very good, very good. Well, Marlon, thank you so much for joining me as always. It's always a pleasure to have you on. This has been Fox Valley Headline Makers.